The United States Department of Education released new Title IX guidelines, which would ultimately narrow down the definition of sexual harassment and change the way colleges and universities address sexual assault investigations. Joining me now is the manager of Know Your Nine, which is a project advocated for youth, Sage Carson. She's here to tell us more about this, what this means, in fact, for their organization and what it's doing to fight back this decision. So thank you so much for joining us. Help me understand how this changes the equation.
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for having me. What's really concerning for us right now is that this new rule for Title IX would reduce reporting at schools and make it much easier for schools to sweep sexual violence under the rug and ignore complaints of pervasive sexual harassment and assault. By DeVos's own estimations, the rule would actually reduce reporting by over 30% in higher education institutions and by about 50% in K-12 students, which is extremely alarming because reporting rates of sexual harassment and violence on campuses is already extremely low. And so we're very worried about what this is going to mean for
So if it's
students
going to have that type of effect, why was the change made? Was it to even the level the playing ground here when it comes to being accused of something, so you're not automatically basically blamed for something more so than you should be?
Yeah, so DeVos has publicly said that her rule is really meant to level the playing ground. But when you read through it, it doesn't do that at all. In fact, DeVos's rule makes it much easier for schools to ignore complaints of sexual assault. So an example of this is under the new rule, schools would be unable to punish sexual violence that happens off campus, including off campus apartments or unmarked fraternity houses. So that effectively means schools are able to punish off campus speech, but not off campus rape, which is extremely alarming for students that are facing sexual harassment that impacts their education. So DeVos's main goal is really to make it easier for schools to ignore sexual violence and sweep it under the rug, something that they've been asking to do for years now.
All right, so what do you think should be done now in helping both sides of this? Because they got to find some equal level here to some extent, because you're not guilty until proven guilty, right? So how do you fix this, or can it be fixed?
Yeah. So first, Know Your Nine has filed a lawsuit to try to stop this rule from ever going into effect. We really value a fair and balanced process for everyone, but reducing reporting, creating high standards for survivors that never allow them to make a report in the first place, and putting them through burdensome processes isn't a fair process, and it actually unless you are trying to stop someone from ever being named as an abuser, doesn't actually help folks that much and create a fair process. So moving forward, we hope that this rule is struck and never goes into effect, but a fair and balanced process is possible. Previous Obama administration's guidance actually was very balanced. It did provide protections to both sides, and we hope moving forward that there can be a further balanced process. This could mean ensuring that schools have folks that can help guide folks through the process. They have a neutral panel that can conduct questioning instead of allowing respondents to do that themselves. It can include uncovering violence that happens off campus because it impacts someone's access to education, and using standards of harassment that recognize that harassment creates a hostile environment for folks, not asking people to reach a level of harassment that pushes them out of school before they're able to get support.
Okay, so I understand that the ACLU has filed a federal lawsuit, which your organization is a part of. Before we let you go, what is your message to those who fear or are worried that if they speak up on any sexual assault that they have experienced, that they will be ultimately turned away?
Yeah. First, I'm going to say that Know Your Nine is doing our best to make sure that survivors have the support that they need to stay in school. We are here for you, and we are trying to make sure that this never goes into effect. But there are action that folks can take right now in their schools and community. Know Your Nine has launched petitions that you can use in your community to fight back against this, and we're coming out with state and local legislation recommendations as well. And so right now, we encourage folks to take action. If you are a survivor, if you are not, to fight together to make sure that survivors have the protections they need to succeed in school, because everyone deserves, a fair access to education.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and the work that you're doing. We appreciate you coming on to explain this to us. Very important.